It's time for the Curtis Riggs Show. The head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. The Curtis Riggs Show on FM 98.1, AM 1230, KWSN, and KWSN.com. The Curtis Riggs Show being brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute. Now, here's your host of the Curtis Riggs Show, the voice of the Sioux Falls Storm, Rich Frosty.
And good afternoon, and hi, everybody. I'm Rich Frosty, and welcome to the final Curtis Riggs Show of 2018. And during today's show, we'll be talking to the Storm head coach, Curtis Riggs, about the past season, about the tough loss to the Iowa Barnstormers, 42-38 in United Bowl 2018. And we'll also talk about the off season for the Storm. What's coming up and what's going to be happening, and how does that all work as far as the getting ready for next season is all about. We're going to talk to him about those three different areas. Also on the show, we're going to be talking to Grant Thayer. Now, Grant is an intern with the Storm, and we'll be talking to Grant about his experiences and what it's like to be an intern with this organization. Now, the Curtis Riggs Show is presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Now, coming up next is the head coach of the Storm, Curtis Riggs, and listening to the Curtis Riggs Show on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio KWSN.
The biggest difference in Boyer and other truck dealerships is the fact that we're an employee-owned company. From the front of the building with the sales to the back of the building with service and parts, you're dealing with the owner of the company. We have the smallest vehicles all the way up to the biggest vehicles. We're a truck dealer by heart, and by design, we deal in the whole gamut of the vehicles. There's not a lot of dealers that do that. But this is a relationship business, and I enjoy the relationships a lot.
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games, and more games, plus food, great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservations and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
You're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Frosty.
And each week, our opening interview with the Storm head coach, Curtis Riggs, is brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Storm sponsors since day one, Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is, and they deliver anywhere in Sioux Falls, and their subs are just breader. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. And, Coach, in our first segment, we're going to be talking about the season past. But before that, I just want to say, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay, Rich. You just keep plugging away.
That's exactly what you have to do. You know, the sun came up the Sunday morning. You probably got to see it on the bus on the way home. But it did come up, and you just continue, go on, and things are going to be interesting, and we'll be talking about that during the course of this broadcast this afternoon with the head coach. But I want to talk a little bit about this season, and as a reflection for the fans. I remember the first night that we got together as far as the first team meeting, all the players come together, and I walked into that room, and I didn't know hardly anybody in that room. I mean, how many veterans did you have come back from last year?
I think guys from the previous team, we had 4 offensively and 1 defensively, is what I can think of offhand. I mean, it was not many, and that's one of the tough things of indoor football, and it's not one of the luxuries we used to have, where we had guys for so long, for so many years, and or letting guys go. It's a really tough part of this business. But over the 20 years of the organization is what we have in mind. and that's what we think of, and we try to do the best thing for the organization and for our fans. And we felt like this new crew of guys was a group of guys that could help lead us to another championship.
So that's where the season started. You have these guys, and you get them ready. You got 2 weeks is all to get ready. Go down to Arizona, and it was a tough loss down there, 39-33. But then the Storm wins the next 4 ball games. But still, during that time, there was still a lot of changes that took place in your personnel, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. That's really it's one of the very difficult things, Rich. I mean, it could be. Well, I remember the game at Arizona, the first game. You clearly see that a guy is not, is not going to be a good fit in our system, and so you got to let him go. Well, of course, that's going to cause animosity. I mean, that young man has made a life-altering change to come to Sioux Falls and try to pursue his career at Sioux Falls, and things didn't work out. And they're not always great partings. You hope, and we wish him the best, and we try to help him get somewhere else. But we have to think about who's going to be the best fit. And we had to do a lot of that this year, more so than we've ever had to.
Now, one of the other challenges that you had this year was the fact that you were head coach and general manager. How did that complicate or simplify things for you this season?
I think it was a little more phone time. I think it eliminates a buffer for players to come to, if they have issues with the GM, or if players have issues with coach, they could go to the GM, and I mean, that's not ideal. But to help, it's what Todd and I decided to do, and we were able to, make it work for the most part.
Now, going through the season, when did you really feel that you had the nucleus of the squad that you needed to have to carry out the rest of the season?
I felt like even from the beginning that we would have a good team, that we would find pieces of the puzzle to fit around that nucleus, as what you say, and we would get there. It's just the great thing about indoor football is it's a long season, and the bad thing about indoor football is it's a long season. And so you have time. It's don't hit the panic button right away, and you try not to ever react to just the things you see right away.
You look back on the season, the Storm had wins. You had also losses, and you had loss at home and on the road, both ways. But that is more typical of what most coaches go through during the course of every season. Very rarely does a coach go undefeated. In the last couple of years, it's been more like what most coaches face. Tell us about, going through a season with wins and losses, and how you regroup and how you adjust and move on.
Well, yeah, losing a game at home is a rarity for us, and we lost 2 of them this year. And really, you and I have always talked about our mindset. You always want to win all your games at home, and it used to be you want to go better than 500 on the road. Well, that's kind of developed into we just want to win the games all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
And part of sports is 2 teams take the field, both teams have a chance to win. And when we step on the field, there's always the chance that we could lose. It's not just step on the field and win, and that's what happened to us. 2 good teams, Arizona and Iowa. The thing we can say is we never lost to a team that we shouldn't have lost to.
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa and Arizona were good teams, great organizations, had very good teams that could beat you. And when we weren't fully prepared or we made mistakes, we paid the price for it.
There was a coach that I worked with for many years over at Central Line. Dick Null was his name, and his idea of a successful season was to win all the games you're supposed to, and then win a couple that you were not supposed to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very well said. The problem for us, though, Rich, is we're supposed to win them all.
Yeah.
And that's our own self. That's the goal that we set. Is really the goal we set is to get to the championship. Hey, let's get to win back our title or defend our title and put ourselves in position. That is our goal at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we accomplished it again this year. We just went through some obstacles that we usually don't go through.
One thing about it, getting there, many people didn't feel that the Storm was worthy to get there as a team.
Yeah, you know, I even coming into the playoffs, I mean, the three-way tie for first place, and both times when we played Arizona and Iowa, people had us picked to lose by double digits. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, hey, we might not be the Storm of 2011 or whenever, but we're good and we can beat people. And maybe that's good. People are looking past us, and because I don't think Iowa or Arizona ever had that mindset, but clearly people, you know, outside of the Storm and the other indoor teams thought that.
Talking to Storm head coach Curtis Riggs on the Curtis Riggs Show. The Storm finished up the end of the season with 6 wins in a row. The last 3 of that part of the season were absolutely nail-biters. They all came down to the very last play. For you as a coach, was that high stress or was that fun?
Oh, it's fun when you win.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun like when you lose that Iowa did the championship game. But you know what? When you play that way, there's always that chance.
Yeah.
You know, and we had escaped 3 times winning those games.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most important one, we run out of time and we're not able to overcome it. The thing I'll tell you though, Rich, and we just had exit meetings, and you know, Jabari Buckley was the last one, and I mean, there's 13 seconds left, Rich, and Jabari is on the sidelines going, "Here we go, offense. We're right where we want to be."
Uh-huh.
You know, and I mean, and that's that mindset that you and I have talked a lot about this year. I mean, they just never give up. They never give up, and I mean, that part was really a privilege to coach.
That is a fantastic statement. A privilege to coach a team like that. Looking back on the season, what were some other special moments for you?
You know, I thought one special moment was the way Lorenzo came back this year compared to last year.
Uh-huh.
I thought a special moment was when our team really came together towards the end of the season and went on a run. I really, truly believed that we would win the title. And I really felt like our offense really came together. And, I mean, we were hot, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at Arizona and Iowa, I mean, one series each game is all that we didn't score, and we threw interceptions on those. And both of them, when I met with Lorenzo today, I told him both of them were really good plays by the defense. And other than that, they really came together and played well. You know, so that was a really proud moment. And the way they guys fought, I mean, that always will stick into my head of how this team never gave up.
And in that game, and we'll talk about it in the next segment, that one interception, the Sioux Falls Storm defense came up with a stop of their own, and then the Storm converted. So actually the interception did not yield points for the Barnstormers in that particular series. Coach, it has been an amazing year with the different people that have come in, and it has been quite a ride, and it has been a great time for me to be a part of this. And we'll talk more about what's in the future in our final segment. But, Coach, hang in there. We'll be talking about the United Bowl 2018 in our next segment.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. And this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is, and they deliver anywhere in Sioux Falls, and their subs are just breader, and that's not a typo. That's exactly what they are. We'll be back with more of the Curtis Riggs Show after we pause for this timeout. You're listening to it right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio KWSN.
If you haven't been to Eastway Sports Lounge and Grill lately,
the Rosties wanted their new house to be unique, so they went back to Fireplace Pros. The upstairs is traditional, but the downstairs is very modern. They are delighted.
We wanted a different look and feel within our house, and Fireplace Pros, as always, helped us make it happen. They're the best.
Visit us on the web or stop by your nearest Heat & Glow or Heatilator dealer. Fireplace Pros Heat and Glow and Heatilator. You're going to love the way your home feels.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And the Storm Weekly Recap is brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun. Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing party hosts for all Storm fans. And he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Your team goes down to Iowa Barnstormers for United Bowl 2018. The Barnstormers victorious 42-38. Looking at it as a whole package for a championship game, that was one exciting contest, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, I really tip my hat to Iowa and their front office, and I thought, at first you thought just having the lower bowl, what kind of presence will that be? But their fans were very passionate. We had a great showing of fans. That was awesome to see. It was a championship atmosphere, and you could really feel it as you stepped on the field for the national anthem, and it was exciting. It was fun.
That first drive by Iowa took 7.5 minutes. What did that do to your ball club? I mean, your offense had to wait that long, and your defense was on the field for such a long time that first drive.
Well, it actually gave us some confidence. At least I thought defensively, I'm like, hey, they had to work really hard to score on you guys. They had to get some third downs, and you're going to win these. And that's what we really sold it as. And it was weird because I was talking to Matt Zimmer early this morning, and I'm like, Matt, it's the same as the Arizona game. Both teams only got stopped one time each, but the score was not near the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was overtime, but there just wasn't as many. At least we didn't get. Iowa's defense did a very good job of not giving up big plays. We really had to grind out our touchdowns, and we were able to make them have to do that at times, but they too were able to capitalize for touchdowns.
One thing that I called and talked about quite a bit during the course of the game, it looked like your running game really had some great lanes. It had some great openings, but Iowa continually came up with those ankle sweep tackles and stopped the running game when it looked like it was going to go for big yardage, and it wound up being like 2 and 3 yards.
Yeah, there looked like, especially in the first half, sometimes we were going to be able to get Lyle McCombs, to break through and get a nice run, and their D-line did a very good job of really squeezing down and just barely getting a piece of him to bring him down. And then in the second half, we adjusted, and we used Lorenzo to run, and we were really able to pound the ball at them. And I thought, we're going to wear them down, use clock, keep their offense off the field. The only problem was when they got on the field, they were able to capitalize with touchdowns.
As far as the game was concerned, the first half never had more than a 7-point lead, and the second half never had more than a 4-point lead. That's how exciting it was. Storm get a field goal by Bergner at the end of the first half to pull the deficit to 4 points, and then you wind up coming out of halftime and you score with your offense. And when you scored and took the lead for the first time, I really thought that was going to totally change momentum, totally change the tide. But then Iowa kept coming back, especially picking up some long third-down conversions.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. I thought, the play before halftime, I still think is one of the biggest plays, though. We had a chance for a touchdown, and we just missed it. We didn't execute. We had Judd Harrell wide open, and we missed it, and we had to resort to a field goal, and Miles comes and knocks down a big field goal, and you still feel like, hey, we're in striking distance. We come out, score, take the lead, put the pressure on them. But they really answered it, and you're right. They had drives where we had them 3rd, 14, 3rd and 15. They were able to get those first downs that really were, they really tear you apart. They take a lot of confidence away as a defense.
Well, the Storm goes up on top 38-35. There's 2:43 left to go in the ball game. And then Iowa puts together a 5-play drive, 37 yards. And it looked like in that last carry from 8 yards out, that the Storm had him stopped at about the 1 yard line or so. Then there was a big push from behind that brought him over the line of scrimmage, or over the goal line, rather. And, of course, that's a legal thing to do, but I thought your defense had him at that particular point. What did it look like from your angle?
Yeah, it's one where I think we had him stopped at the push, which you can do.
Yeah.
You can do that now. They really got behind it and got him into the end zone for a touchdown.
Walk us through the unsportsmanlike penalty after that touchdown, and what happened as far as the penalty and a challenge.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, who would have thought I would have ended the season winning a challenge? I mean, the way my season was going with challenges. So they got a personal foul, an unsportsmanlike for taunting or celebrating, or I'm not sure what it was.
Uh-huh.
And you can thank that. You could either use it on the kick return, or you can use it on the extra point.
Oh,
well,
you have a choice.
The way that he had kicked last time he faced us, we just felt like, let's try to put more pressure on him. This is really big because, if we get some yards, we got miles in field goal range. Let's make him have to kick it from, 15 yards back. And he knocked it down. When he made it, Coach Kaiser was the one that's like, hey, there's a questionable hole that it's worth trying. And I was like, you bet. We got 2 timeouts. We don't need 2. We just need 1. Let's try it. And we did, and we won. So then it bumped them back 10 yards from there. And to the kid's credit, he comes in and knocks it right down the middle. We had a really good block going, and Kwame Bell just misses it, but doesn't distract the kid. Gable still knocks it right down the middle.
That would have been a 3-point difference had that been blocked, or he missed it, which would have set up Bergner for a possible tying field goal. But you wind up with the ball with 13 seconds left. And just take us through that last 13 seconds.
Well, the first thing we wanted to do was try to put ourselves in position to have options. And we did, we did a nice job. The offensive line did a great job protecting. Zoe hit Damon Powell coming across, and he got about 15 yards and got out of bounds. So now we're at midfield. And then the next play, we're looking at, we got 5 seconds. Let's try to get a few more yards, and then we can consider 2 things. One, we could think about drop kicking for 4 points and trying to tie the game. And Miles was like, if you get just a little bit past midfield, that 20-yard range, 15, 20, I think I can do it. Or you're even in position to throw for the end zone without having to throw really a Hail Mary. And we dropped that one. We had 2 seconds left. So now let's throw to the end zone and see if we can make a play here. And Zoe put through a perfect pass, and Damian Ford had the ball. And then it was as soon as Tyrell Pearson does a nice job too. He jumps on the Ford as Damian has the ball. Pearson literally jumps on him as he's going over the wall. And Pearson and the fans, they're like piranhas. They just attack that ball like it's a piece of meat, and they all knock it out of his hands as he goes over the wall.
Talking with Craig Maddock prior to going on the air with you, I gave him this scenario, and I asked him, in a football game, outdoor football game, 11-man football game, a pass goes into the end zone, but for whatever reason, the receiver is laying on his back in the end zone, and the ball goes into his hands. He catches it, and then a defender knocks it out of his grasp. Is the play dead because he's on the ground already?
Are we talking NFL, college? What?
Well, I guess I'm not smart enough to figure out the different degrees of what it would be. My point being, and I'm not questioning the officials. I'm just putting this out as a supposition. Being that Damian Ford was on top of the dasher board, is that the same as being flat on your back on the ground? And if he catches the ball, is the play dead? Because you can't go up to a receiver if he's on the ground already, then knock the ball out.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I think, though, they would say, is his momentum stopped?
Okay.
And that's probably, the easiest way to look at this one.
Sure.
Is his momentum stopped? Is it he lands on the fans and his momentum has stopped and he's not going anywhere further? Then, yeah, possibly it's a catch. But Damian was still falling back. As you know, it's like all the fans. No one tried to catch him. They all went. They all went for the ball right away. And you know, I would hope in our place, our fans would do the same thing, and I'm sure they would. And you know, if we move it over just a little bit and throw right at our bench, then maybe it's a catch like Casey Veenhoff or Matt Holmlin. You know, because our players aren't going to knock it out of his hands.
No, that's right.
So
it was a fitting ending to an exciting game in the fact that it was an exciting ending, and Iowa came up with the play, and the Sioux Falls Storm did not, and they are champions. And we congratulate the Iowa Barnstormers, their very first championship in their franchise history, and the great fans. They had great support down there, and they had a very organized event. It was a championship atmosphere like we talked about, and congratulations to the Barnstormers. When you got back in the locker room, what did you say to your team?
You know, there's really not anything you can say. I mean, you're not going to make them feel better, and that's one of the things you talk about is, guys, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for a while. You know, I mean, there's many plays that I sit here and just think about, you know, how could we have done it differently? How could I have called it differently? How could I have, you know, put my players in a better situation? You know, you just sit there and do it. And I told him, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have this, and hopefully you use it to fuel and motivate you to come back and you know, try to get back again and win the title. But it's the part of sports that no one likes, but it's also the part of sports that really will, you know, help you moving forward. Because, you know, we've talked many times, Rich, that it's easy to win. It's easy to deal with a win. It's easy to celebrate, but it's really hard for a character and a person to be able to look someone in the eyes and tell them, hey, really good game. Nice job. You guys made the play to win the game, and you deserve this one. And that's tough. That's really hard. And I thought our guys handled it very classy. You know, they shook hands, they came in the locker room, and they felt the pain of the big loss.
Well, Coach, congratulations on a very successful season. Your goal was accomplished to reach the championship game, and we'll talk about the future in our final segment. But any other final thoughts about the United Bowl 2018?
I just would like to say the same thing you did. One, to congratulate, you know, Iowa. They had a fantastic season. You know, they did a nice job. But also like to congratulate our guys. I mean, they had a very good season also. You know, they were first. They went on the road and competed against two very good teams with the chance to easily come away being champion. And it was an exciting, different year, to say the least. But those guys gave us everything they had.
Very well said, Coach. Talk to you after a bit.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. And this segment brought to you by Eastway Bowl and Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing party host. We'll be back, and we'll have Grant Thayer, intern with the Sioux Falls Storm, after we pause for this timeout.
We all know that emergencies happen at the most
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this interview brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And joining us via the fan line, an intern with the Sioux Falls Storm, Grant Thayer. Grant, thanks for being on The Curtis Riggs Show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, just tell us a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up, and where are you going to college?
I'm a Sioux Falls native, just raised here in town. Went to Washington High School, and now I go to school at Northwestern College in Ore City, Iowa.
Well, then how did you get to the Sioux Falls Storm?
My family is big fans of the Storm, and I was taking a semester off before I student teach this coming fall, and heard of the internship actually through my mom, and Coach Herm was one of my past coaches, and he suggested that it might be a good fit, considering I'm a PE major as well as into sports management, and thought it'd be a good experience for me, and took the internship and had a great time.
Now, were your expectations coming into this job, did they match up with what your responsibilities wound up being?
Pretty much. I mean, equipment managing is pretty dry cut. You understand a little bit, but I mean, it was a new platform, I guess. The indoor game is different than the outdoor game in different regards, as well as it being a professional level other than college. It was interesting seeing different rotations of player personnel, as well as just meeting new people and different philosophies. So it met up, but also exceeded, and some parts were eye-opening also.
One thing about it, people don't realize how much stuff a team takes when we travel, and that's your responsibility to make sure that there's at least one of everything along, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, nobody really understands until you, at least if you think it in the terms of an equipment manager, everything that you see on the player ends up in a bag that equipment manager is in charge of.
Nobody knows who the equipment manager is unless something is missing either, do they?
Exactly. If you're found out, you probably didn't do something right. So it's usually nice when you can stay behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, the guys really treat you well, didn't they?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were first class. The coaching staff was first class. They really handled themselves like professionals, and that was really, really good to see that you weren't just another kid or another person there possibly in the way. They really appreciated everything, and I appreciated that they took the time out of their day or their schedule or anything like that to thank me or talk to me. It was really, really nice.
Any fond memories that you can think of this past season?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, just the relationships that you get with players or the traveling that we got to do. I'm a Green Bay fan, so getting to go to Green Bay and walk around Lambeau Field or anything like that was probably some of the best memories, and I'll carry those for the rest of my life.
Now, what's next for you?
I go back to Northwestern College this coming fall, and I'll student teach in Boynton Hall, Rock Valley, at the high school there, as well as equipment managing again for the football team there.
Well, Grant, thank you so very much for all that you've done for the Sioux Falls Storm. You're a great guy to be around, and you're not a bad roommate either. You never complained about my snoring, so that was a pretty good deal.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Grant Thayer, and what a great equipment intern that he was with the Sioux Falls Storm this season. We'll be back with more of the Curtis Riggs Show after we pause for this timeout. This segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better.
There's a storm coming. We may not know its path, but your independent auto.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. In this segment, I wanted to say a special thank you to John Michaels. He's our studio producer and engineer all season long, did a lot of the board opping for the games during the season. John's a member of the South Dakota Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and also the American DJ Hall of Fame, and he was actually one of the originators of the dance DJ system. John, I can't thank you enough for making me sound better than I really am.
It's great working with you, too. My forum program this summer is going to be week 2,222.
Oh, you're kidding.
We got American or South Dakota Education Association Award for that, Children's Care Hospital, they call them Wings Award, the Public Affairs, what do they call it, Lifetime Achievement Award.
How many years
that was 20 years ago.
How many years have you been doing that program every Sunday morning?
Since 1977.
1970.
It's the longest-running Sioux Falls radio program by the same host in Sioux Falls radio history at this time.
Well, congratulations to you, John. But thank you again for all that you've done with the Curtis Riggs Show and also for the Sioux Falls Storm ball games.
And as your producer, I think we better get back to a commercial and back to Curtis Riggs.
Very good. We'll be
Your
back
house
right
is not
after
only
this.
a home for your family, it's also an investment.
Breathe easier when you have your ducts cleaned by Waterbury. Call us today.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, 917 South Cliff Avenue, sliced fresh, baked fresh, made fresh. Come see what fresh really is. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Coach, we don't have a lot of time left of the final Curtis Riggs Show. Before we get into any content, I just want to thank you for all the shows that we've done together and the way that you've always handled yourself, win or lose. You'll answer any question, regardless what the question is, good or bad. But you've always handled things very well, and I appreciate that more than you realize.
Well, yeah, Rich, I think, our relationship is much more than just a radio and coach. It's, I consider you a very close friend, you and Sue. And if people, they see and hear you, but they just have no understanding of how much work you still put into your craft. And that's where I just can't stress to people enough the appreciation and how lucky we are to have you here. As we're driving on the road, most of us are watching movies, and you're trying to study and memorize names and their stats and different information to help the fans. And so, yeah, thank you, Rich.
Coach, what's ahead for the Sioux Falls Storm? Let's jump right to the last question. The future of Storm football.
I think the thing that's always hard at this point of the season, Rich, is we have to look at the organization and what do we think is best. And it becomes really hard because you have to look at roster. You have to look at now the number of vets. You have to look at younger players, older players, and you have to make some really tough decisions. And they're never decisions that you enjoy making. No matter how much people think that, it's always tough for my coaches and I. But it's something that we have to do. And I'm sure that will be some of that. I know we had really good exit meetings. Just about all the players would love to have a chance to come back and try to win that title back. But it's something that we have to meet as a staff now. We'll have staff meetings, and then Todd and I will sit down and meet and look at, what can we do to be better? Mm-hmm. What can we do to be better as an organization? I thought this was a tough season. It was tough for our fans. We had to play on Fridays, on Mondays, and it was difficult, and it was really tough at home and being there to present in front of our home crowd. I thought we did a good job again raising money, and that's something we definitely want to keep doing.
Coach, my very best to you. Enjoy the off season. Take care, and we'll see you a little bit later on tonight.
All right. We want to thank all our sponsors too, Rich. Don't forget those.
I will absolutely do that, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Thank you.
We'll be back with our final segment after we pause for a quick timeout.
If you haven't been to Eastway Sports Lounge and Grill lately, here's what you're missing. Specialty burgers like the Mac Burger, creamy mac and cheese on top of a bacon burger, and the tastiest wings and handmade pizzas on the east side of Sioux Falls. Haven't spent happy hour at Eastway? Don't miss Twofers Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Deuces Wild Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 6 p.m. $2.75 well drinks and domestic beers. Miss a day at Eastway Sports Lounge and Grill, and you miss a lot.
Moms, dads, this year the Storm will once again put together the most affordable birthday party anywhere for kids 12 and under. Get this, for parties of 10 or more at any Storm regular season game, your party will receive 10 tickets, 10 Pepsi beverages, and 2 large pizzas for the...
Waiting to see a doctor?
What's taking so long?
It can take a while.
I don't have time for this.
Or longer than a while.
We've been here 2 hours.
Forever.
Hello?
What would you say if there was another option?
Finally.
Yes.
It's about time.
We're inclined to agree. It's about time for the best patient care. Sioux Falls Urgent Care.
Segment thanks to our sponsors, Boyer Ford Trucks, Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, Eastway Bowl, Eastway Sports Lounge, Lewis Pharmacies, Boyer Ford Trucks again, and also Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and Orthopedic Institute. Thank you to John Michaels. Thank you for all of our listening audience. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that. You know, it's tough to see your team lose. It hurts more when you care about your team, and the more it hurts when losses come. But you shouldn't think of it having it any other way, because without caring, there is no hurt. But with caring, the cost of that hurt is worth the price. It's been my pleasure to bring the Sioux Falls Storm games and the Curtis Riggs to you. And good Lord willing, I'll be back next year for my 20th season.
It's time for Sioux Falls Canaries baseball on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230 and FM 98.1 KWSN.
What? Oh, okay.
Tune in all season long for all the exciting action of American Association baseball. Now it's time for the
All right, let's do
Orthopedic
it.
Institute pregame show. Get the latest news and